The word composition conveys the idea of taking several elements and putting them together to create one whole. And never is that definition more true than in the process of language arts, particularly the way that Charlotte Mason approached it. Now, when most people use the term composition in a language arts context, they're thinking of the skill of taking words and putting them together in order to write a paper or an essay or a story. But in a Charlotte Mason education, there is much more coming together. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. Many educational approaches introduce composition in the elementary years, but the Charlotte Mason approach is different. It waits until high school, because composition is a culmination of many elements that you've been doing with your student all the way through the lower grades. He's been listening to and reading great books by a variety of excellent authors. He's been learning spelling, grammar, and mechanics naturally as he progresses through reading lessons, copywork, transcription, dictation, and grammar lessons, which also use passages from good literature. Your student has been doing oral narration. Charlotte Mason called it oral composition because it requires your student to do the mental process of gathering his thoughts and composing them into sentences. He has also transitioned to writing his narrations, so he's had practice in writing his thoughts. If you've been with us throughout this series on language arts, you'll recognize each of those elements. If you missed some of the episodes, be sure to go back and get the details on them, because each is an integral part of the natural progression that culminates in composition. The reason Charlotte Mason arranged the progression in this way is because there are basically two components involved in writing: the format of the writing and the writing voice. Now, of the two, developing a writing voice is harder and takes longer. Your student can quickly pick up how to organize his paper in a certain format, but cultivating a unique writing style or voice is a long process. Charlotte allowed plenty of time for the student to hear and read excellent authors who each have their own unique writing style. As your student becomes familiar with those different authors, he discovers that not every author sounds the same, yet they're each a great author. As he enjoys a wide variety of great authors, he begins to form personal preferences in how they communicate, and he gradually incorporates those preferences into his own narration attempts. Charlotte allotted plenty of time for the student to practice composing his thoughts and communicating them, giving opportunity for your student to hone in on a voice that authentically represents his personality. That's an important point to highlight. Many composition courses end up with everyone's compositions sounding the same. The students are taught a specific formula. Use this many adjectives or this many adverbs, and it does not allow each person to sound like himself. But a Charlotte Mason education is focused on respecting each student as a person, a unique individual. And she maintained that principle even in composition lessons. So let's talk about the process and what composition in high school looks like. Well, the first thing to realize is that written narrations are basically rough drafts. They represent the student's initial brain dump of what he just read or heard. So you're not analyzing them for sentence style or best word order or things like that. You can, however, and should, use written narrations as opportunities to gently and gradually hold your student accountable for the mechanics that he's learning in his grammar lessons. It helps to give your student a list of the capitalization, punctuation, spelling, and grammar guidelines that you've covered in his English and grammar lessons. and let him use that list as reminders of what he should be incorporating into his written narrations. Lists like that are an integrated part of our Using Language Well courses. The lessons gradually introduce the various guidelines, and then each guideline is added to the list for quick and easy reference. I'll leave a link to those books in the description for you. Now, your goal at this stage is to gradually help your student learn to identify his own mistakes. So don't grab your red pen and circle all of his mistakes that you see in the narration. Rather, focus on helping him master one or two guidelines at a time. You might begin with capitalizing the first word of each sentence and putting ending punctuation at the end of each sentence. Once your student is doing that pretty consistently, you can then introduce another guideline. And as the guidelines increase, you might find different types of mistakes sprinkled throughout his rough draft. What you can do when you find a mistake in something that he's already learned and should be doing is simply put a mark in the margin of his paper near the line where the mistake is located. Give the paper back to him and have him look for the mistake in that line. You can tell him what kind of mistake to look for. For example, there's a capitalization mistake in this line, or a spelling mistake in this line. But don't circle the mistake or correct it for him. You want him to grow in his ability to read his draft carefully, identify the mistakes in it, and correct them for himself. Once he gets to the high school level, that's what he will be guided to do, edit his own rough draft. But he'll be looking for more than just the mechanics of capitalization, punctuation, spelling, and grammar. He will begin to focus at that stage on how he can improve each sentence to make it the best it can be. So the more mechanics that he's already mastered during the preceding years, the easier it's going to be for him as he shifts to that content editing stage of composition. In composition lessons, he'll be encouraged to think about his word choices and the order of those words in each sentence. He'll focus on introductions and conclusions and transitions between paragraphs, as well as creating cohesive paragraphs and papers. He will consider the audience who will be reading his work, the types of compositions, and how to cite his sources. But all of that work will center around one of the narrations that he's written as part of his schoolwork. By the high school level, he'll be used to writing at least one rough draft narration every day. So composition lessons will simply guide him to polish his draft into a finished piece. We are very excited about the Art of Composition series that's designed specifically for high school students who are ready to take their written narrations to the next level. Check the description for a link to this wonderful composition course by Karen Glass. Now you see why composition comes at the end of a Charlotte Mason Language Arts program. It's a brilliant, gradual progression that starts with the first good book you read with your child, that grows with each narration he tells, and later writes, and that culminates in a confident writer with a polished and personal style. That's composition the Charlotte Mason way. Check the description for the links I mentioned. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.